Let's look at the Navi a little bit. Let's get back to studying Tanakh. The dominant tribe among the children of Israel since I guess the times that we became tribes was Yosef, and there's a little bit of a rivalry between Yosef and Yehuda there, right? Yosef and Yehuda are the two greatest of Jacob's sons. It says Yehuda Gavar Be'achav. Yaakov Avinu basically said, "Lo Yosef Shevet Yehuda," but Yosef was his favorite. Yosef had a certain aspect of Malchus also, and is the firstborn in many ways, right? So, which tribe dominated and ran the show? It's a little bit difficult to say. Moshe Rabbeinu's brother was very closely related to the heads of the tribe of Yehuda, right? Moshe Rabbeinu's brother Aaron was married to the sister of the head of the tribe of Yehuda, and Moshe Rabbeinu's sister was married to the second head of the tribe of Yehuda, Kalev. So there was a little bit going on there. That was family relation. But Moshe Rabbeinu's number two was the hereditary head of the tribe of Ephraim, and eventually, as the Rambam has it, the first king of Israel. And Yeshua was the one chosen by God to conquer the land of Israel and set up the tabernacle. Basically, he's the Mashiach ben Yosef to David HaMelech's Mashiach ben David. Right? So this is alluded to in many places. Fine. We're on the same page with that. I'll put on something here from Machon Mamre, which I can't seem to find. I don't know where it went. Okay. Oh, it's because the computer crashed before. So this is I set this up so you can see it. We're supposed to see Tehillim Ayin Ches also. Put it over there. Don't worry, I'll take this out. Start again. See, I prepared my Mara Makomos and they got erased. Computer crashed, gone. So as we were saying, Ephraim was the dominant tribe, right? Yeah. You ever read Tehillim Ayin Ches? Tehillim Ayin Ches is a doozy. It's on the screen in front of us. It's one of the longer chapters of Tehillim, 72 psukim. Even the Alpha Beta is twice as long, but the Alpha Beta itself could be thought of as 22 separate psalms. You know what I'm talking about? Yeah, good. Okay, fine. And this one is a little bit of a history lesson, a Jewish history lesson. And it starts with Asaph telling everybody listen to what I have to say. I have a real lesson for you. Okay? It'll be a little bit poetic and cryptic, but there's a lesson. He says here, I'll begin with this. B'nai Ephraim, no shekei romei kashef, hafachu b'yom karav. Am Yisrael got to a point in the time of the judges where they were on the down. It says B'nai Ephraim, who were the ones who were basically no shekei romei kashef, means they used to be good at archering. They turned their face. Hafachu b'yom karav means they had to flee, right? Retreat. They were being beaten. Why? Because Asaph is mentioning over here, there was a generation or generations in Jacob where eventually you stop learning these lessons. Ha'azinu tells you what? Remember, Jews should be aware of history, right? When they were doing well, so God was with them. And then, Vayishman Yisharun Vayivat, they got fat, they got too spoiled, they started doing what they shouldn't have done, so God allowed them to suffer. That is the cycle throughout Sefer Shoftim. So, Asaph, who's going to be discussing Jewish history until King David's time, also introduces his Tehillim with Ha'azino instead of Ha'azinu. There's more Ayin Ches. If you open up, you can see it there. So, they were not Lo Yukavutham, Dor Sorel Moreh, Dor Lo Yichim Libo. They weren't like their ancestors. They are a generation of Sorer Moreh. Right? That's a biblical the expression in Deuteronomy for the son who's rebellious, right? Dor Lo Yichim Libo, Lo Nemna et El Rucho. They prepare their hearts properly, they have right faith in God, right? So that's what B'nai Ephraim represents. B'nai Ephraim is basically the old regime. Why? The way they understand it is that once Yehoshua died, he had no heirs. Apparently, as I'll say, he had no sons. That's where there was no successor to Yehoshua. But Ephraim was still the dominant tribe for quite a few hundred years. They thought that, well, the Mishkan is in their territory. That's like the capital, right? And the last major figure came from Ephraim. The conqueror of the land was Ephraim. So until that point, they probably could have said, the Mashiach is supposed to come from Ephraim also. Some Ephraimite will eventually rise and complete the job, whatever it might be. Hold on 1 second. Okay. Fine. And ultimately, talk about how things got bad. Am Yisrael learned lessons, how they sinned in the desert a few times. And what happens here? It mentions the Makos. Okay, there's some psukim that people know over here. Okay. What happened? Am Yisrael started sinning again once they're in Eretz Yisrael. We get to the 57th verse. It says, Vayisohu, Vayivgedu, Kavutam. They backslid, or they retreated. They were treacherous like their ancestors. Nevhu Kikasheth Rimiyah. They totally turned around like Kesheth Rimiyah. In this case, Rimiyah is unfaithful. They're very unreliable. They angered him with their high places, and with their idols, they made God jealous. Am Yisrael sometimes worship idols during times of the judges. So what happened? God heard this, and he got angry. He greatly rejected Israel. He also abandoned Mishkan Shilo, the tent that he had domiciled among man. Right? Part of the punishment. Eventually God said enough. There was a Khurban at the end of the times of the judges. He basically delivered his people for the sword. They started losing wars. Once again, the hitaber is a type of anger. Exact difference between that and other things. I'll look it up. Gra is what to say, and so does Rav Hirsch. So he was angry at his portion. That's us. Bachurav achla eish. His young men, the soldiers, they were eaten by fire, consumed by fire. Uvtulotau lohu lalu. Kwanau b'cherev nafalu. Even his priests fell in battle. Lamanotau lo tivkena. The widows had no time even to cry. Vayikatz kiyashen Adonai. And then the Lord woke up as though he had been sleeping. Kigibor mithronein miyayim. Like a hero, a mighty man who has recovered from his hangover. Vayach tzarav achor. He knocked his troublers backwards. Cherpat olam natan lamo. And there was an eternal disgrace to the bad guys, of course. Vayim as be'ol Yosef, u'shevet Ephraim lo vachar. He rejected Ohel Yosef. Ohel Yosef represents the Mishkan as it was in the area of the tribe of Yosef. That means he's no longer going to put the Mishkan back there. It was temporary. God wanted it there, and now he doesn't. U'shevet Ephraim lo vachar. He no longer chose Ephraim. That's it. Ephraim is the dominant tribe done. Vayivchar et shevet Yehudah. He chose the tribe of Yehudah. Someone from Yehudah is finally going to be in charge. Time has come. Et Har Sion asher ahem. And as for where's he going to put the Mishkan, he's going to put on Har Sion, reference to Jerusalem. Vayiven kimo ramim mikdasho ke'eretz yisadah le'olam. Like he built his temple, his sanctuary, like ramim, the high places. And it also says, Vayivchar b'David avdo. He chose David his servant, like Achel milchlotzon. Took him from that little tent where they keep the shepherd sits to watch the sheep. Okay. And yes, everything was good after that. Why do I mention this? Because Ephraim represents the old regime. We've discussed this in previous shurim. So now we should see over here in Sefer Shoftim, when did Ephraim start to chafe? Or when did Ephraim get jealous of what was going on? So recently, Rabbi Sharkey talked about this. He mentioned it in context, and he was correct, but there was an important point that he wasn't trying to make, that he did not make at the time. So I'll now make it now. And what was it? Gidon's war. Who did Gidon fight against? Mostly Midian was the main antagonist, Amalek and Bnei Kedem. This is about right in the middle of the time of the judges. Gidon is unique because now he's a leader from the tribe of Menashe. Ephraim gets his chance. The way Rashi has it, the kings of the 10 tribes. First, Yeravam came from Ephraim, Yeravam's family. They're wiped out. Then the Omerides, Omri, Achov, and his children, also from Shevet Ephraim. They were the dominant ones. They had to be pushed aside. Yehu and his dynasty was from Menashe. So too, now it's Gidon's time to arise. He's the Shevet, the Shofet from Menashe. He's also like a king. Everything we've seen about him basically says he's king in all but name. And that's what the people even said to him. Why don't we just make this official? You even have a lot of kids, so you're a good candidate to be king. That's what they offered him. You'll get to be king, and your sons will be king afterwards. Good deal. So it says when Gidon got the upper hand, what did he do? Umalachim shalach Gidon b'chol har Ephraim limor. Gidon sent messengers throughout the hill country of Ephraim. Redu likrat midyan v'lichdu lahem et hamayim. Go out to meet Midyan. Attack them. Conquer from them the water. It means the way to cross the Jordan River. Ad Beit Bara with Hayardain. Okay, until you get this place Beit Bara, until the Jordan River. Attack. They're on the run. Wa'isa'e kol ish Ephraim, while you could do with a mime, Ad Beit Bara with Hayardain. So the Bnei Ephraim rallied, and they did what Gidon said. Okay? And they seized this territory back from the Midianites. While you could do Shnei Sarei Midyan at Orev with Za'ev. They caught 2 Sarei Midyan, Orev and Za'ev. Maybe you heard about them. They're mentioned to him also. With Vayargut Orev B'Tzur Yev, with Za'ev Harchu B'Yekev Za'ev. They killed Orev in a place that they named Tzur Orev, and they killed Za'ev in a place called Yekev Za'ev. Vayidefu El Midyan. They chased them all the way back to Midyan. Merosh Orev Za'ev Heviu El Gidyon Me'ever LaYardain. And they brought back the heads of these 2 Midianite Sarim. Wow, quite a victory. Good job. He told Ephraim, now's your time to attack. But Ephraim's not happy with this. By the way, all this time, there's no major one figure in Ephraim. Leaders of the tribe on a whole. While Yeruri Lawish Ephraim. So the men of Ephraim, means the big shots of Ephraim, told Gidon, Ma davar hazeh asita lanu. What is this thing you've done to us? What do you mean? Livilti karoth lanu ki alachta lilchem b'midyan. You didn't call us when you went to fight Midyan. You only told us, after you'd already gotten started. Why don't you give us the call beforehand? Okay? No. Don't you know we're supposed to be in charge? Why you rivuni to b'chozka? Okay? Then you start fighting with him. B'chozka means they're about to use force. You consider this usurping their authority. Vayomer alihem me'asifi ata kachem. Said to him, what have I done now like you did? Halo tov olulot Ephraim mivtzir Aviezer. Okay? Isn't the olulot of Ephraim, those are the small leftover grapes on the vine of Ephraim, are better from the batzir of Aviezer. That's the family within Menashe from which Gidon came. And the batzir is the grapes that are fully ripe and ready to be picked. He's saying, your nothing grapes are better than our ripe grapes. So, like Rabbi Sharkey pointed out, he's trying to appease them. Okay? He's nice talking to them. You did such a good job. In your hands did God give the Sari Midyan, Orev and Za'ev. I couldn't have done that. You guys are the best. So their spirit was weakened. And they're like, okay, they chilled out because he said this. Smart move. However, a little bit later, Bnei Ephraim are still going to get upset at someone else. Who? Anybody here know? Next time we hear them, put it on the screen over here. It's in Yiftach's time. What did Yiftach do? Yiftach also, he had to fight against whom? The Ammonites. His main battle was the Ammonites. They came to retake Ever Yarden. Their whole claim was just because you won all this territory in defensive war doesn't mean it's ours. And that was the first time, as we point out every time this parsha rolls around, it's the Torah of Kukas, right? The Ammonites are basically threatening land for peace. Okay, you give it back, and you'll have peace. This is extortion, So what was Yiftach's answer? Which is surprising. It's shocking that any Jewish scholar could even entertain the idea of so-called land for peace. If So you don't even have to look for a Mishnah to say it. It's Torah B'Dvar Mishnah. Even the Tzedukim know there's no such thing. Why? Because the Tzedukim have the Bible. It's against the Bible. It's against Psukim in the Bible. So whatever. After Yiftach beat the Ammonites, what does it say? Read this line. It's a good answer. It first says what happened to his daughter, right? That was like an aside. Remember, he had to promise to offer his daughter as a sacrifice. But first it said that he beat them, right? Why Dar Yiftach Neder, okay. And what happened? Why Avor Yiftach el Bnei Ammon? Yiftach crossed over to the Bnei Ammon, Lilachem Bam. Why Yitaneim Adonai Biado? The Lord delivered them into his hands, via his hand. Why Yakeme Aroer Wad Boacha Minith Esrim Ir. He smote them from Aroer until Neath, 20 cities. Wad Avil Kramim, until wherever these places are. Makagadola Me'od, a great smiting. Why Ikanu Bnei Ammon Mipnei Bnei Israel. So they were basically defeated. Next chapter begins. But Bnei Ephraim, why Yitza'ek Ish Ephraim, why Avor Tzafona. The men of Ephraim, they got army ready, and they went northwards. Why Yomeru Yiftach, Madua Avarta Lilachem Bnei Ammon. Why did you go to fight? You went over, crossed over, the river, whatever it is, to fight Bnei Ammon. The Lanu Lo Karata Lechet Imach, and you didn't call us to go with you. Same complaint, right? No, they're the Ephraimites. Beitecha nisrof alecha ba'esh. We're going to burn down your house on you. It means we're going to burn you and your family. They're pretty upset. So what did Yiftach say this time? Well, Yiftach alihem ish riv haiti ani v'ami uvnei Ammon me'od. Okay, I had a big dispute with these Bnei Ammon. Okay, we were having trouble with these Ammonites for a while. Me and my people, the Bnei Gilad, Avar Yarden people. Wazaketchem, I called to you, I cried to you, and you didn't save me from them. Okay, the Bnei Gilad put me in charge because they weren't getting any help from you West Siders. Where I saw you weren't saving us. I took my life into my own hands, means I risked everything. I crossed over to the Bnei Ammon. And the Lord delivered them into my hands. So why have you come against me now to fight against me? I had to do what I had to do, and now you're coming to attack me for it. Notice in this time it didn't say Bnei Ephraim actually helped in any way. So he didn't try to sweet talk them or anything like that. He basically, gave it back to them. Good Musar too. Why Yiftach kol anshe Gilad. He gathered all the people of Gilad. Why Yilachem et Ephraim, and he had a little war with Ephraim. One of many Jewish civil wars in history. Why Yaku anshe Gilad et Ephraim. Kiabru plitei Ephraim etem. Sorry. Gilad b'toch Ephraim b'toch Menashe. So basically here, they basically chased after. Okay, Bnei Ephraim picked a fight that they shouldn't have, now they're losing. See, this could be what the psalmist was referencing. Dafka, Bnei Ephraim, they turned back. They were the ones who were losing. While Kad Gilad at Mabrod Ardain Ephraim, he also grabbed the Jordan crossings from Bnei Ephraim. They're trying to retreat, but he already controls the ways across the river, the bridges. Wayak Yomeru Plitei Ephraim Avora, Wheremu Lo Anshe Gilad Afrathi Ata Wayomer Lo. The Anshe Gilad who would control this. Oh, you're an Ephraimite. You're trying to cross. Are you an Ephraimite? He would say, no. I'm not. I'm a Menashe. I'm something else. Wayomeru Lo and more na Shiboleth wherever Shiboleth. Okay, they said, okay, yeah, say Shiboleth, and he couldn't say it. Apparently, even then there was different accents. Some people can't pronounce certain things, so they were killing all of them, and that's the end of it. So, Rabbi Sharkey said, Gidon was able to avoid conflict because he talked nicely to them. And Yiftach basically was, oh yeah, come here a minute. We'll see about that. But there's a little bit more to this than that, and that is, look what's happening here. The establishment, okay, initially they had an amazing victory with regards to the Gidon times, about 100 years before that, and they were also willing participants. But here, what happened with these Bnei Ephraim is what kind of unfair. Why? They refused to help. Initially, when Bnei Yisrael on the east side of the Jordan River were under attack, according to the way Yiftach has it, they actually appealed to Bnei Ephraim, send us, get an army here. For example, a lot of times we don't know who was in charge of the Jewish army. When Eli sent out his people to fight the Plishtim, his sons went to carry the Ark of the Covenant. Who was the leader of the Jewish army at the time? Eli was the Shofet. Shimshon was dead. Shaul hadn't yet become king. Samuel was still just a young man. He hadn't taken leadership. Ragtag army. When it says that the tribes gathered together to punish Giv'ah in Binyamin, it doesn't say it was a national leader. It says Pinchas was Kohen Gadol at the time, but it doesn't say who was leading the charge. Right? It's when, even in Yeshua's time, when the Bnei Gad Bnei Ruvain built an altar, apparently an altar beyond that of the Mishkan, which was a big sin, if they're going to use it. So it says the tribes got ready for war. It doesn't tell us who was the leader among these. Yeshua himself wasn't involved in this. The tribes got together, so I guess the Nisim, the individual Nisim of the tribes got together for this. So here, the establishment, the Ephraimites of Yiftach's time, were basically saying, we're not going to defend you. We're not, no, let the Ammonites attack you, take your territory. But then when people like Yiftach say, okay, so now we're going to defend ourselves, we're going to have to fight the Ammonites. Yiftach was only Shofet. Why? Why they give him the job? Because there's no one else. It's like, we're being attacked. We need someone to fight right now. So, okay, put that guy in charge. He says, yeah, but don't you think I'm the bastard that you kicked out of his house? You took away my Yerusha and stuff. Now you come crawling back to me. Like, yeah, we need your help. He's like, fine, I'll help you. Let's do this. They have to be in charge. So they refused to help. Okay? And then we see also later, a little bit later, Shimshon. The Plishtim didn't like Shimshon. He worked on his own. Who were the ones who tried to arrest Shimshon and hand him over to the Plishtim for punishment? It says Bnei Yehuda, or Ish Yehuda. They came to Shimshon like, you're causing trouble here. Don't you know the Plishtim are in charge? The beginning of the Sefer has that the first, when Yeshua died, they asked the God, who's going to lead our wars now? Yehuda goes first. And the first judge was from Shevet Yehuda. That's Othniel ben Kenaz. But by the time we get to Shimshon, the Bnei Yehuda are weaklings. They're surrender monkeys. They wanted to. They're the establishment. They tell Shimshon, you're a troublemaker. We're going to hand you over to the Plishtim because they're our rulers. And but we'll give you up and then everything will be okay. Right? So you see here, these men of Yehuda, they chose to side with the Plishtim against Shimshon. The Bnei Ephraim were pretty cool with allowing the Ammonites to attack fellow Jews. Oh, and the fellow Jews fought back. Oh, now the Bnei Ephraim have a problem. So that's similar to the situation today. The Ephraimite establishment, which needs to be replaced, just like in David HaMelech's time, God is now rejecting the Bnei Ephraim, the old establishment. So the earlier state is now derelict in protecting the Jewish people, the Commonwealth. The land of Israel, whether you like it or not, you could say you're not Zionist. Whoop-de-doo. You live in this country. You're part of your nation. It's kind of funny. Haredi society pretends it's not, but we're all in the same boat. We're all Jews in one country. Okay? And the establishment has basically lost its way. Once upon a time, at the very least, even though we were talking about people who were atheists and sometimes were able to, even turn their backs on their fellow Jews for whatever reason, there's a lot of history to talk about perfidy and things like that. Ben Gurion wanted to win a war and seize territory for the Jewish people. I know, not perfect, but at least that's what they tried to do in the olden days. They did win wars. Even Moshe Dayan, who we don't consider a tzaddik, okay? But at least they knew how to win. They won the few wars. They won the War of Independence and the Six-Day War. Six-Day War was one of the greatest victories in human history. Okay? So what's the problem here? Do you understand where we're going with this? The establishment now has that there are Jews in these areas, right? who have been left to their own devices. They're under attack all the time. And officially, well, the Jews here are under attack all the time. Talking about right now. No, right now it's exactly the same. And now they're defending themselves. They're realizing that the establishment officially doesn't send the army to destroy their enemies. They send the army to handcuff these people and don't let them fight back. You know?
Yeah, but you can't take Ephraim.
It's like the police. No, I'm not. I'm just saying Ephraim represents the old establishment. Okay? That's the limit. That's the limit of the analogy. Like in New York City, okay? They won't stop the criminals, but someone stops the criminals, then they'll arrest him. Okay? That's what Bnei Ephraim and Bnei Yehuda. That's what Bnei Ephraim and Bnei Yehuda were behaving towards the end of the judges before God said, "Okay, we've had enough of this." Okay, and history has repeated itself. The Jewish people are stuck. You know, we're not. You're not allowed to. The Haredim want to make a Haredi army. Okay, a Haredi commonwealth in the land of Israel, and a Haredi army that actually does things that a Jewish army is supposed to do. They'd be stopped. Yeah. Well, I don't know if it's against being Haredi. Haredi means no Klal Yisrael consciousness. Okay. What are you going to do? So we're stuck. The point is, history repeats itself. The more things change, the more things stay the same. Lahavdil, yes, I'm just saying it's analogous. The names are different.